Hello and welcome to the Passing Notes podcast. I am your host this week, Jack. I'm here with my father, Mark. No Kale this week, but we are here with my choice and with 3/5 of the band Airspace from their album As Good As It Gets. So we have Jason, who also known as Jader for some of the listeners, who was been on here before and leaves comments. Eric, who was here, strangely, on the last one we posted. What? Back to back. And Chase, who is another listener. So we're glad to have them on. Good friends of ours. And they released an album that we're all really stoked about. And we're going to talk to them about it to learn some more about our friends. And to maybe promote this to the very few people who already listen to the album.
Our many subscribers.
The massive audience.
Yeah, to everybody who's already listened to it.
Just say, the Venn diagram's a circle.
Yeah.
The listeners of us in this podcast.
Truly.
The nice thing about the numbers of our subscribers and maybe the listens of your album is it's easy to double.
Yeah.
That's not too big a goal, potentially.
First, before we dive into this album, we are going to talk about the comments from the last one, which was from the best with Eric, which he also left a comment. He said, the best.
Brilliant.
And then he replied to his own comment. Also listened to Jump Rope Gazer's album and definitely listened to Expert in a Dying Field album. Thanks, Eric.
I stand by my comments there, yeah.
We also have a comment from Jaders, who's also here. Mark has so many W takes in this episode. I do like how everyone on the podcast stays super consistent in the reviews. Mark loves good hooks and values radio play over everything. Kale pretty much only likes obscure music or music written by a depressed person. Jack dislikes women vocalists and alternative music. Okay. Okay. And Riley Seymour, this is the first time commenter. Actually, Riley Seymour 6316. Any new episodes coming down the pipeline? That was 2 months ago. The other one was 9. The other two were 9 months ago. So, yep, here we are.
You asked, we delivered.
Yeah. Again, before we're gonna pause jumping into the album again and just sit down and have a talk with some of these boys, ask some questions about the band and the making of the album. Dad, do you have any that you want to start with, knowing that you?
Yeah, just generally. We kind of, I mean, we sort of know who Airspace is, but what is Airspace? How would you define musically who and what you are, maybe?
I think we all take from the various bands that we share common interests in. So bands like Interpol, The Strokes, Kings of Leon, at least the time of the formation of the band, and just my voice kind of sets certain songs we can sing. I mean, I can't sing like Tame Impala. I can't sing like Mariah Carey. So it's going to set that era of the band. And so I don't know. I think my voice plus what we all share an interest in kind of sets what the band sounds like.
Yeah, I really like how we have that like circle. The three of us for sure, but also Uriel and Keenan of The Strokes, Kings of Leon, Arctic Monkeys, and then we all each have our own influences that, like, I particularly like Kurt Vile, but you really like Land of Talk or something, where it's like, you know, we each have our own influences that come in, and it's very funny when somebody will come up to us and say, like, hey, you guys really sound like this, and it's a different band every time. It's like, I'm glad that we don't sound like one band. Like that is really nice.
Yeah. How about when it comes to songwriting, what does that look like for you as a band?
I think just like the answer to this question, to start with Eric.
Yeah, so most of the songs on the album started, I wouldn't say most, some of the songs started with a chord progression from me. There are a handful that, you know, Chase started, and I think the ones that you started, you wrote my part too. And then Uriel also has his own, and
Don't look over here. None of them start from lyrics. They don't start lyric forward, really. They typically start, like he said, chord progressions from either one of these two here. We'll meet in a practice room, and then we will flesh out how we want it to build, if we want a bridge, yada, yada.
Which I really like because, like, for instance, The Strokes, a band that we all admire a lot, like, their first 2 albums was basically just Julian Casablancas wrote everything, all the parts, and then came to them. I'm sure that things changed over time, but like he could very easily have just been like, this is by Julian Casablancas instead of The Strokes, where for us it's like there's not a single song where it's every word, every note is written by one person, which I think is good, because otherwise it's like not really an Airspace song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when do the lyrics happen? At the end, and after a song's been fleshed out completely?
Yeah, I mean, at least the song will need verse to chorus, and then we can figure out the rest, but most of it is done at least halfway through the songwriting process. So actually the very beginnings of writing songs is, considering I play no instrument really, it's me kind of standing there thinking to myself as they run through repetitions and they figure out their own parts, and then the next practice I will come in with ideas I've been cooking.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like, you know, nonsense words, or not even words at all, just like trying to find what the melody's going to be. Mm-hmm. And then we'll, like you're saying, next practice, layer some words on it. And I like, you know, you'd come with like, okay, here's like the words I have for the verse, and then the chorus, and then we'd be like, okay, maybe we could change this, and then that becomes the bridge. Like it wasn't a one stop, okay, we wrote the song, these are the words for it, we're done. Like it was a very evolutionary process for a lot of the songs.
And the words went through various iterations. There would be times where maybe we've had a song for a month we've been playing, and I come in at one practice and I'm like, I rewrote the whole song and it means something different now, or something like that. So just that kind of working with it and working at it and trying to find the best version of the song that you have in your head.
Yeah. Very good.
So would you say that you write the majority of the lyrics, or do some of them, come from other people as well?
I would say 70%, if not more, come from me, and then Bounce Around the Room, Chase probably provides the second most. Songs like, and we will get into it in the album, but songs like Phasing have a huge Chase presence. Moments Between, huge Chase presence. So, but on most of the other songs, it was me probably from all the lyrics. But yeah,
cool. My question is, how does the thought of starting a band and making an album start? Like, obviously, you guys were just learning instruments and mucking about. But when does this start? Like, we actually want to turn this into a thing. What's the thought process, and how do you get that started?
It's so funny, like, seeing the juxtaposition of being in Iowa City, and every band that we meet is like, yeah, it's like the 4th band I've been in. Everyone lasts like less than a year, and there's nothing wrong with that by any means, but usually they release like 1 or 2 songs, and it's just like they shuffle between lineups, where like, what has it been, 5 years since we started this thing? It was pre-COVID. Yeah, we went to an Interpol show in Omaha, and immediately after we were in the hotel room, like, how fun would it be to just like make music? Like, and then we were just like talking about how feasible it would be, who would play what parts. People got shoehorned into what they're gonna play simply by just like, okay, this person owns like I was going to be the drummer initially because like I own a drum kit, and that was the only like thing we had. And then like as we're like placing in parts, Jason's like, well, I guess I'm singing then.
Singer, yeah, it wasn't immediately a sought after role. It was kind of one of the last roles to fall into place. And if I'm in the band, it's pretty much the only thing they can do.
Tuba.
Or tuba. That's pretty much the two that I offer.
Road manager.
Yeah, I guess at the time, the only instrument that was like for sure was me guitar, because I'd been playing guitar. And then Chase had started to pick it up, and then at the time it was Colin and Luke. Colin had the bass, and once we figured out Chase wasn't going to drum, then Luke was the next obvious option, and then Chase learned guitar.
That's the band start when you just started making an album.
We had at the beginning of the band's creation, I guess, we were like, nobody expects it to be a huge success. We don't expect to be living off of this band, like, unless some sheer luck happens. But what we know we want to do and what is in our control is play a live show, release music, ideally an album on streaming services, something you can look back in a couple years and be like, I made that. That was a time capsule of my life, sort of thing. So that was just goals really early on to get those done. And I guess at the time we also didn't know really what that meant in the work that goes into doing that.
Yeah, we had done a couple covers with those two members, and then over the next, 6 or 7 months, we decided that we actually wanted to make music, and then those two members didn't really want to do that, and that's totally okay. And originally it was like a 5-song EP that we wanted to work towards, and then as we made more songs, we, I guess, just thought, why not make an album?
Okay, and straying away from that, I want to talk I want to talk about the other goal that you set is live shows then. I don't have a specific question, but I want to hear what some of your guys' experiences were throughout, I guess, maybe choose, like, your first few big ones. Like, obviously the first live show was maybe a basement show that you guys held. What was that like? And then, like, your first maybe paid show or somebody asking you to play, and then what the experience that was like then, like what was going through your heads, and how that was for you guys.
Yeah, it's definitely like milestones, like you're saying. When we played the basement show, it felt like this is like, an amazing feeling. Like, surely it can't get better than this. And then and then we played for free at like a public venue, and we're like, this is amazing. Surely it can't get better than this. And then I would say like just when you realize your friends want to see you play, that's a really cool feeling. Like, whether or not they're being patronizing because it's fun to watch like your friends play music, or whether or not they like it, it's just fun to play in front of people. But for me, that schism and that shift to, okay, now we're playing in front of people who want to watch us play, but I've never met before, that's the coolest feeling for me. I don't, like, obviously it's not about the money, you're paid like virtually nothing. Sometimes I'd rather not be paid than be paid like $6 a band member or whatever, but like the beer tickets they give you are more worth more value than the money you get out of the show. But yeah, I think that it's just really cool to have people care that 20 minutes before your show had never heard of you.
Yes, highlighting a show, one of the best ones. We played in my girlfriend's basement in Ames, and the show started with, 6 people in the basement who we invited, and by the end of when we were playing, it was wall-to-wall people who I couldn't even tell you half the people who were in that basement were, like, really into and engaged with what we were doing down there. So that's one of the big highlights of playing. Whereas you have some shows which are, we get paid to, say, play outside, really cool venue, but nobody there is really paying attention. We're playing music kind of more at people who are walking by, not really engaged with it, not really caring what's going on, and then leaving. And like, you get paid for it. It paid for the album, but it wasn't like a super rewarding experience necessarily in terms of performance.
Well, don't ever sell yourself short either. If people are not running away, covering their ears, that's something. As a former DJ who used to not think being a DJ was anything, thinking this is too easy to be a job, anybody can do this. Guess what? No, they can't. I had someone who had done it a lot longer than me explain that to me. And when you hear somebody bad, in my case on the radio, you know it right away. You don't want to stick around. And then from the musical standpoint, and playing a lot of rock and roll, pop, just a lot of music over my lifetime, and being the guy that picked what we were going to play, I can tell you that your friends listening to you is not charity. You're a good band. Your music is good. So your fan base may be primarily your friends now, but it won't necessarily always be. And that basement story is a great example that people heard it and kept coming and hung around. And not every band can do that. It's kind of the starting point of being a good band, but it beats the alternative, because bad bands, people ain't hanging around, and new folks aren't coming by and sticking around when they're playing.
Awesome. That's some very sage advice.
Now we're exaggerating.
Anything else before we start going track by track and start grilling into them?
I don't know. Maybe this is mistimed, but just because we're talking about you guys live, and I don't want to forget this question, of what's on the album, and maybe you haven't played it to a live audience enough. Have you played this material several times live? Okay. I'm curious which track gets the best reaction live?
For a while before the album had released, I would say Endlessly She Goes was a fan favorite, which was kind of surprising to us because, I don't know, I didn't like it at the time as much.
I don't think it was the style of music necessarily that we had in mind that we would be making when we started a band is probably what it was. But it's fun to play live. It has energy.
Yeah. But, I don't know, a lot of people, Waves Away live is a lot of fun, and a lot of people talk about that one. Or, I guess, Moments Between maybe next after that.
It depends on the demographic. I would say people who are over 30 typically say Midwest is their favorite.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one.
What are you looking at me for?
I'm just saying that's been my experience. Any family member, anybody I know who's over a certain age, Midwest is the one they always call out without question. And I would say below 30, it's kind of a toss-up between the ones that he named. I do really quick want to shout out, before we get underway, Keenan, the drummer, huge, unmeasurable impact on the album. He mixed the whole thing. He put hours, sweat, tears into making it on his own, self-taught. So it could not have been done without him, and he is not here.
Yeah, like you said, would not have happened full stop without him. It was not only his connections to Gabe's, playing shows there, playing live there, his connections to Dan at the Vault where we mixed and mastered everything, and his willingness to learn the drums, having never played the drums before, but that's just the type of guy he is he's just, when he's excited about something, he's going to put his full energy and mindset into it. And he made this band come together when for a year plus we were spinning our tires because we didn't have a drummer, and there was a legitimate chance that it's like, okay, you know what, it's easier to get a guitarist, I'll just play the drums and we'll be back to where we started. Like, I might play the drums. So yeah, definitely big thank you to Keenan.
That's great stuff.
Awesome. Okay. We are about to go into As Good As It Gets with the first song, Phasing.
Something's got to give, but nothing's given for some time. The way you're forced to live is a crimson cloven crime. You cross the T's and
Got anything strong to say right off the bat, Father?
Strong to say?
Yeah, you got any banger notes?
Great opening. The music slays. It's like slow, melodic at first, but very enjoyable. And then the tempo picks up, drum comes in. Now it's just a great vibe, and I'm digging it. Strangely, on this one song, when the vocal comes in, it's kind of jarring. Somehow it's not what I expect. Even after listening to all the tracks multiple times, it still happens. I am unsure why, if it's where the note is hitting when it comes in or what. I am not sure, but that was a weird deal that I had to get used to. I think it's the last two lines of the song that is the chorus. And Jason knows what I'm going to say. Would have loved to have that in the middle of the song too. It's so hooky. It's such a nice hook. Why are you wasting it and saving it for the end? It's like I'd probably start the song with it and somehow fit it in 3 times. But make it a hit, baby. But I guess that's my initial 2 cents. Yeah.
My notes are kind of all over the place. I talked about the intro last, which is awesome. So I really like the intro. I think it's very fun going from the like melancholic sound at the start into when the tempo picks up and the rhythm guitar comes in. Though I do wish the rhythm guitar was a little louder at the start and then settles down. Because when it's by itself, I just wish it was a little louder and then settles down to the volume that it's at when everybody else comes in. And yeah, that was that. I thought this one was really well mixed. There was the first time there's a little vocal backup. I'm not really sure it does much. And I'm not sure I noticed it except for the last time I listened to it. It doesn't hurt or like gain anything from me. I'm just like, okay, so I just wrote that down. That was at the Forgotten How to Play Along the first time. And the second time it comes in, I really like it though. At the Let It Ring, I really like how that does, and then they fade out. I'm not even sure you say that part.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he skips that line.
I hold out the Let It Ring, and then he goes on to the next line. Yeah.
Do you even say ring? No, you don't. Yeah. I was unsure. I was confused. I was conflicted about if I wanted you to say it, and then because I'm not sure how it would have played both ways.
I think it's just because we settled on doing that because when we play it live or practice it, like he can't like hold out ring and then go really quick. Right. So I'm just like, well, what if I just held it out and then you can go?
Right. Yeah, and I wasn't talking about having him holding it out, but just saying ring and then you still keep going on after it. Was like, okay, maybe because I got used to it, but I think it was when I'm being really nitpicky of him going let it and then him not saying the next one, but it's you saying ring and then him coming back in. I think it was a little. There's something to it to me. That's all I was doing. I really enjoy how the song unfolds in the outro, and the effects on Jason's vocals with the fade out is quite good. I think this is a great first track to the album, and I'm very proud of you guys for it.
I think like since its inception, it's been like, okay, what's the track list going to be? I don't know, but one is phasing. Like we just have always had that, and yeah, I don't know why that has been the case. I think it's just because, like you guys have said, it starts melancholic, slow, builds, and then that final chorus into the outro is like, we want that to be what the album sounds like rather than like a more jammy song to play that's more fun to play live, but is not like what Airspace is to us.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the songs that I think the three of us here at this couch really, when we thought about being in a band, talk about the sound we want to make. It's this song, something that has atmosphere to it that isn't super in your face, all that. I think, and as I mentioned, like kudos to Keen at the beginning, and I don't mean to slander, but part of what Mark is saying about the way my vocals come in Keenan just has a certain way of mixing and EQing and putting things in, and this song is one of his least favorites, and I don't think we ever quite could convey to Keenan what is in, I think, all three of our heads to him in terms of what we wanted it to sound like. So I think he struggled putting the vocals into the mix in a place where they aren't so quiet you can't hear them. But I think right now they're at a place where it is kind of almost too center and in your face compared to the atmospheric music. But I'm glad what you said about starting the album with this, because the three of us knew it would be one, but we did have to convince the other two that we're opening with this.
Keenan really wanted an endlessly or a moments between to open the album. Really like get your audience in there to keep them listening. But we viewed it more as like a artistic choice of what we wanted the album to sound like front to back rather than front loaded, I guess.
And when you're looking at tracks, phasing is a great word. And once you want to figure out more, what's this mean? And I think musically that it does that as well. You like, let's dig deeper into this album. I think it's usually a mistake to come out with whatever you might think is the banger on the track, because it's downhill.
I think we all agree with that when we were putting the track list together. It's like I don't know, just getting into like music discourse, talking about like your favorite albums of all time. Once you get to like, okay, how do I like this album? It's more than just the songs. It's like, okay, this song translates into this one really well, and then the transitions into these next few or whatever. Yeah, phasing. It was also possibly the song that we banged our heads against the wall the most in processing and mixing it, just because of what Jason was saying, where it's like, it's just so hard to convey to another person what's in your head without using words that don't mean anything. Yeah. Like when you're like, I want this part to be more saturated. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? Like there's no saturate button. And then like at the end, it's kind of funny. The guy that we mixed stuff with, Dan at the Vault, was like, what if we just threw a phaser on the drums, which is normally used for vocals or guitars? And he's like, what if we threw them on the drums so that it kind of wobbles out at the end and it's not just domineering over the song? And I thought it was cool. And it's a nice touch because the song's called Phasing.
Right.
So that was just came together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that swelling effect you hear on the drums at the very end of the song is through that.
I think didn't we add it to everything at the end? It started as the drums,
I think you're right, yeah.
but and as far as the structure goes of the song, we kind of treat the instrumentals as the choruses, because it's based off of or influenced by French press, by Rolling Coastal Blackouts.
Rolling
Fever.
Blackouts. Coastal Fever.
So we kind of like everything that Jason's in is a verse, and then everything that he isn't is a chorus, and I guess the end's just an outro, kind of where he comes back in.
And this is one where Chase actually came with the song pretty much, at least the verse chorus kind of stuff, fully fleshed. He had his own lyrics. Most of those are still in there. I added more to it to give it more meaning, I guess, than what was there when Chase had written lyrics. And then I came up with that outro part that you're talking about really late on, which is funny to think about that as a chorus and a hook that should be done more, because I don't think ever dawned on any of us to even try doing that more.
This truly is the anti-Mark song, where we sit here and go, hey, the choruses are actually the parts where there's no words. It's just the guitars playing like 6 notes. And yeah.
Well, that's the great part of, I don't want to sound too much like a fanboy, but several of the songs I would, and this is not a comment on lyrics or Jason's voice, it's a comment on the band in general that musically, I just like the song. And for a radio guy who wants lyrics and wants, that exposes the fact that the music itself is hooky and to my liking. So, because I know you really need my confirmation.
Well, I tell you what, if we can get the stamp of approval on phasing, then I think we're good the rest of the way. All of the choruses have words from here on out, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So a question, I guess, to build off of what you guys said is, so you mentioned that the song, you added more meaning to the lyrics of this song. Does that mean that there's a message behind this, or is this more of an evocative, just kind of lyric song rather than having any particular story or meaning to it?
I mean, I am totally fine talking about meanings of songs. I don't mean to imply that I'm not. This song is tough for me because it's probably one of my most vague songs that I wrote. As I said, Chase came with a lot of really good alliteration, really fun, like, concepts of just wordplay, basically. And I tried to form it into, I guess, some kind of story where, in my head at least, it's like a woman trying to get back out there, and the guy, and she gives the guy a chance, but the guy's way too clingy, and she kind of regrets it. And I wrote it in kind of that post-COVID time period of just getting back out there in general, and that's about as much meaning as I could probably pull out of this song for you.
Which is funny, you say like the alliterations thing. This was like, I don't know how old this song is in terms of the band, but it's one of the oldest. Second after Midwest. And that was at a time where and I still listen to these bands, but I was just listening to a lot of like Built to Spill and Pavement and Kurt Vile and bands that are like, it's just like you're saying, a lot of wordplay, a lot of alliterations. And I'm like, oh, I've got like some of these that like I've been rattling around in my brain. I will throw them onto this song, and then we can see where Jason takes it. Cause yeah, it truly didn't really have like a meaning like some of the other songs have a very distinct feel.
Cool. Okay, so this was the second oldest song after Midwest. And you talked about Chase pretty much had it all.
Yeah, just this was at the time where I worked at a warehouse during COVID. Would just, same day over and over again. Everybody lived like the same day, during COVID a million times. And so it's just a lot of free time in your head, driving a forklift around or punching numbers into an Excel spreadsheet just to write lyrics or to have a hook in your head that won't go away. And yeah, this was just me coming to the guys being like, I think we have a second song. It's not just Midwest.
Okay, anything else that needs to be said about phasing before we move on to what I'm guessing is probably their most dreaded song to hear stuff from me about?
Uh-oh. Foreshadowing.
I think we're good.
All right. Next song is Endlessly, parentheses, She Goes. Okay, well, I'll hold my stuff till after yours.
Oh, okay.
Just to make them wait a little bit more.
The dread of what's coming in some way. I don't know about, but
I mean, when this was one of their singles. This was their was it the last single? The last single, and I knew that their deadline for the album releasing was coming up, so I had offered if they wanted any criticism. This is the one I had the most about. Because I think a lot there's a lot more differences between this song recorded than there is live. I think this probably has the most different feeling between the two. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, right off, I love these little things. You guys probably know if there's a little shout or, I'm a sucker for before the lyrics start or between lyrics, just or whatever. And the off mic talking is another little thing that is awesome. I love that to start the thing. I'm like, yes, I'm going to like this one. And then of course, musically, it kicks ass. And I like the manic feel of it. It fits well with the subject matter. What's interesting is what I call the chorus part, the title, Endlessly She Goes, was the way that is sung, I thought was unique, because to me, that song and the lyrics are all bopping at the same speed until that. And then I'm going, what? What in the world? Because I'm waiting to hear Endlessly She Goes, because we're just tooling down the road, and drawing out endlessly really threw me for a loop. I'm like, what? And it took me several listens to get used to that, because it changes pace. So it's a nice, unique deal that you don't run across.
Yeah, we're 2 for 2 on loop throws for Mark now.
Yeah. The vocal and now the way the lyric is done, but I just think that endlessly the song just keeps going, and I dug it. Other than that juxtaposition, which I think is a plus, it adds interest. It isn't what I expected anyway. Maybe it's not unique to other people's perspective, but to me, it was, and made it unique.
Cool. You guys have anything you want to respond to that he said?
Yeah. I'm really glad that you said that about the chorus, because this song was scrapped. We threw it away by my vote, because I came to them with the rhythm guitar that you hear throughout like the whole song, because I hated it. And we had a different chase part that I didn't like, and then the chorus lyrically was also different. And so when Keenan joined the band, we decided to bring it back just to have, we had different influences there, and we could look at it again. And then Jason changed that part, and Chase changed his part. The verses, I think, are the same, but the chorus, it just made it a whole new song that is more likable for members in the band as well.
Keenan defibrillated this song truly with what he did with the drums, because we had an idea, but that intro of the drums coming in and then the drums during the chorus, it just makes this song, like you're saying, good, or at least a song that we want to play and have exist.
And as Eric mentioned, the lyrics and the melody and all of it was completely different on another version of this song up until pretty late into just making an album. I think, you could use the word cringy for maybe some of the lyrics that were there before, and the melody was way faster. There was a lot more words, and I'm like, something's not working. I'm going to do something largely different, and that's when I'm like, I'm just going to sing a couple words and drag them way out. And so that's how that happened.
Well, you do. I'm used to it now. It'd be a different song if you didn't do that to me now. Through the repetition, it's like, it doesn't feel weird to me anymore, and it fits, and it worked in the end.
This is a thing I've been thinking about. It's not in my notes.
Uh-oh. Off
kind of.
script.
So I think, well, part of it is. So the song has always reminded me, and I don't know if maybe I've told you guys before, that this always reminds me of Black Betty for some reason. They don't sound that similar, but I think the rhythm guitar gives me the same vibe.
Which is so funny because Keenan despises that song,
Yeah.
and this is like his favorite song of ours, so that's very funny.
And I think they give me very much. I can't. I recognize, like, I listen to them next to each other, and I'm like, they don't even like sound that similar. Like, the drums are doing so much more in this song than they ever are in Black Betty. I think it's just purely the pace of the guitars that is going on that gives me the similar vibe of the songs.
Oddly, I have a similar deal on a separate song.
Oh yeah,
Not that it sounds like
Black Betty.
Ram Jam, but it reminds me of another artist. And I went back and listened to that artist, and I'm going, which song is it that it reminds me of? It didn't sound like any of them. But every time I hear it, I think of this guy.
Right. And also kind of connecting to what you said about him dragging out the chorus, I think I feel similar in a way. Not necessarily, I don't have any qualms with the chorus or the way that he done it. It's kind of the effect that they have on Jason's voice makes it sound almost ghastly in a way, or like kind of like it echoes in a way. And me being a fan of Jason's voice would just like to hear it without the effect, and it feels like it kind of slows it down, and it also, I think, limits it in ways where he can't get as loud. It kind of diminishes him.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can.
So that was just kind of another thing. I don't know if I didn't explicitly write that. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this song is mixed quieter than this songs on either side of it, which I think if it's not going to be consistent, at least it should be the other way, where this song should be louder than the other two.
I think we tried to change that from single version to album version, just like in the mastering purely. But yeah, limitations.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's tough because none of us three really know anything about mastering or mixing, so it was all Keenan and Yuri. And I think the tough thing about the mastering was at the peak of its volume, it was hard to regulate that throughout the entire song, and so it would change the volume drastically of the quieter parts, the bridge being the loudest.
Yeah, I assume he's not using Pro Tools, or I mean.
Keenan uses Pro Tools.
Oh, well, then he's got no excuse.
But the mastering was done
kidding.
in Logic. But yeah.
Which I hear there's a disconnect between, because anything that Uriel changes, he can't do individually on each part, because it's not on like he can't just up the drums or anything.
Yeah.
Because they're different. He doesn't have the individual. He just has the song as a whole. So it's based on frequency, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a time constraint and maybe more budget and I guess just more free time, the songs probably would be different. Just given more time, because I mean some of the songs don't have that many hours into them, and they work and they're album quality, but they could have more in it. And so I guess we were just limited a little bit, especially with the fact that we booked an album release show and we were really set on October for releasing it, and so that's that.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
Continue on.
It's just something to note.
Yeah, no.
I really enjoyed the intro and everything until right about 125 is where my issues start popping up. On the song, on the track. Not sure if it's a backing vocal, but it sounds like people are going ee in the background. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but it sounds like there's people in the background going ee. If you listen very carefully, like twice, they go ee twice in the background.
For the second, or which part? Describe like the part of the song.
I would have to pull up 125.
That may have been a large piece of machinery backing up
Yeah,
outside.
yeah,
that
fair
just
enough.
happened. If be
We were-
picked up.
and I don't know if we'll even hear it on this, because I was hearing it with headphones on.
Yeah, if it's a certain part of the song, though, we might remember what is in there.
Here, I'll just play it.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
That's me and Keenan saying keep running
Okay.
twice.
Okay. I didn't get that.
Eat is keep
Yeah.
running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's that. But it's far enough in the back where I've never heard it until today with headphones on, listening very intently, which happens a few times with songs with certain things. Speaking to that, when that happens, I'm not sure that if there's something that far in the back, I'm not sure like it does anything where besides maybe make it muddy on like, and I make note of this specifically on a different song where it makes it like on lower, like cheaper speakers, like it's trying to play something and you're never going to hear it because of the quality of it. And it's just going to make it muddier because it's just playing something that you'll never hear. Anyways, the echo on Nowhere to Run is very good. I like that part. As a fan of Jason's voice, I would like to hear natural endlessly, like I said, endlessly she goes. But the effect, I'm not super bummed about it with the effect on there. I think it's still good. But I still, it's just, I think, maybe release an acoustic version.
I think of all the songs, it would not be endlessly.
Right. Okay, and then we get to the bridge, which you've heard the most about. As the band knows, I'm not the biggest fan of the siren going on, though I mean, I do think it starts off good with the one siren, but then I feel like it sits on one note for too long, and it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere, and then the second siren comes in, and then I feel like it clashes in my ears, and make it hard to focus on anything else going on. The backing vocal on the second Endlessly Should Go clashes. I think it goes higher, like the higher part. I think
it's a harmonic fifth.
Yeah, I think that clashes, and I don't like it. But you have to have your own opinion. I think it would better be without, is what I said. I like the growl / grittiness Jason adds to this to the last one.
He was just barking on the mic.
Yeah, he's just a dog. Going back a bit, I also really like just about everything in the transition between There's Nowhere to Run and the Endlessly She Goes from the band is a really cool moment.
That's a shout out to Jared Flory, actually. That's like when this song was in its inception, like that was like the part Jared brought to that song. And he's in the writing credits for it because I think that it is one of the best parts of the song.
Yeah. So that's most of the notes I have down. You're free to say that my opinions are bad.
I don't think your opinions are bad. I probably share some of them. When it comes to mixing, and it's Keenan's baby, and there's just some, I don't know. It's not even battles that you choose. It's more just like there's two roads to go down. There's two ways to do something, and neither are wrong because it's music and it's just your opinion. And this song is not one of my favorites, and if Keenan has a vision in his head, by all means, I would love for him to pursue that to the fullest. You get to a point in the mixing process where you've now gone down that road, and only later did we realize that's not a road you can walk back and choose another path. When you walk down that road after a while, you stick to it, and you just commit, and you see where it ends. You can't change, and so sonically, not every song is quite like Phasing or like Waves Away that maybe I prefer, but that's not to say they're bad. They're just not choices I would have made, and so I probably share a lot of those critiques that you have.
Yeah, I would say I don't disagree about the harmonic fifth. I've listened to it and I've liked it, and other times I've listened to it and I don't like it. So just depends on the day, I guess. As far as the bridge goes, the whole deal with the siren was when we first wrote it, we were like, I think it was just like, give me a solo, kind of. And I didn't know how to write a solo, so I just started bending the same note as a joke, and then we're like, we don't hate it. So that's like my guitar is one of the sirens, I think. And then the other one is Keenan adding it. Basically, we wanted it to sound like the end of the world, and we want it to sound jarring. But I get where the sirens can be overbearing, and definitely can get that.
And when it comes to then mastering, like we were talking about in terms of whether the song level-wise is at the same place as one before it or after it, that's something where you realize at the end, oh crap, during that bridge we've like that peaks the song there. So unless you muddy the sound completely through that bridge to make most of the other songs sound better, like you're left. We learned lessons in the mastering process that of why maybe going down that path for the bridge was not the best idea, because then it limits how loud you can make the song overall. So
I can't promise with $1 million that it would have sounded like a My Bloody Valentine track or like something that sounds like the end of the world and is awesome, but like the intention was there, and like I think I'm glad that we went down that road, because it makes the song different compared to everything else on the record, and it was a fun risk. Whether, like you're saying, I mean, there are just limitations to the money we could put in, the time we could put in, but I'm glad that it became a song that Keenan was so passionate about, because if he wasn't as passionate about it, there could have been another roadblock and we could have said, screw it, we're scrapping it. But it's turned into a fun song, and possibly, at least for a large cohort of the people that watch us, the favorite song for the crowds that we play to. So
Yeah, and I think also what I want from the song is just not an end of the world sound, which could do with it. I'm like, I want this to sound like a Ram Jam song. Like, what is the siren doing in here? Where's Ram Jam? Where's the backyard band that I want? And it could just be a difference in what they want from the song, and I'm not in the band, so who am I to say? Anyways, cool. So that's about the worst of it. Are you feeling good now?
Yeah,
Okay.
As far as like the bridge goes, like a lot of our process, we wanted to always try something so we could know if we didn't like it, and so that led to a lot of things being kept in because we liked it, but maybe upon further dissection it could have been different. And this song also, when we were starting out, we didn't want to make songs that we couldn't replicate live, and I think this song is like the biggest violator of that because we added a lot in post, but the other songs pretty much sound the same live.
Yeah, because I prefer the live version a lot
Yeah.
more than this. I mean, if we were to go live, I think this is probably one of my favorites just because of the sheer energy it has. I mean,
We
you
always
can't
play
you,
it fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
it's already
Yeah. I mean, you just can't not get into it if it's live. So, anyways, that was Endlessly She Goes. I mean, I guess we kind of talked about it. Is there anything you guys need to talk about this song as how writing it went? I get you guys kind of talked about that you scrapped it. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you guys need to bring up about this song? Oh, what it's about, lyrically, any stories, messages?
lyrically, this is probably one of the least deep songs as it could possibly go. I mean, it's just, relationship that is failing that you're coming back to, and it fails, but you keep coming back, and all that kind of anything that's tangentially related to that is basically what the song is about. And just the verses are me having just fun wordplay kind of stuff. But no, it's not worth dissecting. It can be whatever you want it to be about, but it's not that deep of a song. So
Yeah, I mean, it went through a bunch of changes lyrically and instrumentally. The biggest one being the chorus that we talked about at the beginning. This song has been called like 5 different things, and so each time we would change the name, we'd finally get used to it and then change the name again. Yeah. Little lore, I think it was called Hazel because of like multiple steps away. It was a lyric from a Sister Hazel song.
Yeah, because Jason says hard to say in the old version.
yeah, and the old
Which-
chorus.
Is the beginning of All For You by Sister Hazel. It was also called Tornob because the like tornado siren, but Jared or me like fluffed saying it or something. We called it She Goes for a long time, and then we didn't really like that title, and so we put that one in parentheses.
We liked it enough.
Yeah. But I think that was all of the names for it.
Okay, cool. So that was the under 30 favorite, Tide. And now we go to the above 30s favorite, Midwest.
Easy breezy blue attitudes, and in my mind I picture you, chip on shoulder, growing older. Each year I fall, each mid-October. Across the room, I look at you. You know me how you always do. Every night.
Last part.
Yeah. All right, well, kick it away. If this
Here
is
it
your favorite.
is. Being just over 30 myself, I certainly identify with Midwest. This to me was like the live concert lighter song. This is the Airspace anthem right here. Musically from the start, it's just it was just pleasing. And then it got even better. That chorus, to no surprise, probably to you, and sung so well. Time lost to the river. Such a great vocal. It's tremendous, killer. Gives me goosebumps. And when that happens, I salute the band. Music's beautiful, vocals superb. Dig the whole kind of, to me, I get a melancholic optimism kind of vibe from the song, which is where I'm at in my life. And so that connects.
Awesome. I gotta get back to my page. Just really solid. I know you guys don't want. You guys said you wanted the critiques, but this one's just really solid. Just about everything I think is perfect. The little things Jason does throughout vocally with his voice are great. Chase's backing vocal on the end fits perfectly and is great. And the band is solid throughout the whole song. The backing on the When Did Now Become Back Then, awesome. If I were to be really nitpicky, I think that the water or breeze sound could probably be taken out for the album recorded version, and maybe I think it would fit perfect in like a music video. But I had never heard it until, again, headphones. So I think it could just add to some muddiness, especially on cheaper speakers. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Sorry for glazing you guys. Let's hear about this song.
It's old.
As we've said, this is our oldest song. We started really wanting to make original music in the summer of that COVID. And so this was, I think, a couple weeks after we had went to Jason's cabin and really were like optimistic about writing songs. And then we went to Chase's apartment one weekend in Iowa City, and yeah, I brought the verse chord progression, but then everything from there was this is probably our most collaborative song from the start of it, and so that's kind of how it started.
And it's one that really, I mean, the three of us basically wrote start to finish. I mean, Keenan added drum parts, which are good, but the whole song was completely done by the time Uriel and Keenan were there. Being the first song, it did have lyric rewrites, quite a lot of them. The chorus, thank goodness it changed because it was way worse. But yeah, it must be how one-hit wonder bands feel, because you write your best song first and
It's all downhill.
and it's all downhill after that. You can't. I wrote it. The lyrics about obviously just growing up in the Midwest. That being kind of a complicated feeling of like you're happy about it, but there were downsides to it as well. And so I was trying to get that across lyrically as much as I possibly could, talking about something pros and cons. It's just it is what it is, and that's all right.
I love stumbling across old pieces of paper, notes or whatever of lyrics that had been written at the time, and sometimes kept, sometimes scrapped. But I love you guys came down to Iowa City, and like you said, you had the chord progression. I had basically never played guitar before, just the covers that I learned, and I couldn't play any other songs other than the covers that we learned. And then Jason, after hours of us messing around, left with that 4 lines: the wavering eye, imminent change, callous goodbye, long live the old ways. And I remember being there was nothing wrong with the lyrics you had written prior to that and sent for songs, and there was nothing wrong with chord progressions that I had come up with or Eric had come up with, but it just felt oh no, this is a song that can go somewhere. Because I've still got MP3s on my computer of old chord progressions and stuff that Eric and I have, and it's just we laugh at them because it's we were learning truly how to play guitar, and we were learning how to write songs and write lyrics, and so it's there was just a click for this one that just made it different.
Yes, when we say this was the first one we wrote, it means the first one we wrote that we kept. We wrote many songs before this, none of which will see the light of day or ears from anyone other than us, because it's hard to write lyrics. You think you know how, and I mean, there were stages of this where I was writing probably 2 songs a day. I've probably written hundreds of, it's poetry basically at the end of the day is what I was writing, just trying to get better at conveying emotions or memories onto paper and out of your head in a way that it's so hard to balance, it not being cringy, but being vague enough that, people can put their own meanings on, and being interesting and trying to piece, what do you like in other songs? What could you not steal, but just what are tricks other songwriters use lyrically that just give you that goosebump feeling or give you some feeling of nostalgia, and trying to do that in your own way. And so I spent a long time trying to figure out how to do that, and there are many cringy MP3s out there of songs before this one.
And without them, we wouldn't have, this song. So we can laugh at them, but they were important.
Otherwise, unless, I don't know if Eric...
I don't know. I have a disdain for this song a little bit because it's so simple, and I don't like it necessarily being the song that people listen to from us, but obviously they like it, so it's good. But yeah, it was early on, and we were learning how to play our instruments and especially write songs. So, but yeah,
I can see how being your earliest song or oldest song that you still play anyway, this is the time as old as musicians that you get tired of it for a lot of reasons. But going back to your one-hit wonder deal, sometimes that simplicity is why it connects with people. And I would try not to dislike it because you were in a early space in your musicianship, I guess, because it worked.
Well, you're talking to one of Airspace's biggest haters over here on this couch.
I mean, rock and
Is
roll,
that
it's
guy.
3 chords, dude. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I just
It's okay.
always want it to sound challenging, like it to.
The good news is, if it doesn't sound challenging, as a happy secondary effect, it sounds really damn good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I guess just one last thing on it. This song is probably higher than the three of us would put on this album. I think originally, in terms of album placement, we were planning on putting this pretty deep into the album. But because it's such a big hit, Keenan, when we were going through where do we place songs, he was really adamant about it being up there, about putting, like, front-loading, songs that people want to hear early on the album, not burying it at 7th or 8th.
Yep.
Yeah, it was originally, before we had wrote Waves, going to be the closer, because it was on our 5-song EP. It was always going to be 5th, and we were pretty firm on that, and obviously it changed. So then it was going to be 5th in a 10-song album, but then we only did 9 songs on the album, and then so it moved from 5 to 3. But yeah.
And I don't think it was the wrong call, honestly. Like, it's a weird thing where at the time you just have such a headcanon of like, okay, this is exactly where everything's going to fall. And then you got 2 other people to consult with. Or if we didn't agree, we've got to consult with ourselves. Like, this is a 5-piece band. How are we going to, line things up? And now that it's said and done and it's been out for a couple months, I like the order. Like, I'm happy that it's 3rd, Like, I'm happy it transitions into the song after, sort of, like, I don't mind how it fell now.
Cool. All right, so that's Miss Midwest. We're about to go into the second single with Better Days.
On the drive to your house, they added a new lane. Even though it's faster, it just doesn't feel the same. Thinking about a change of scenery, I'll admit it scares me too. Used to be just so damn easy, losing all my time to you. Kicking the ball around, you're down by light away. Better days. We had nothing going on, nights when nothing felt okay. Ever dreaming of better days. On the drive from your house, I thought of just your face. Even with an earnest smile, my tears fall out of place. I know I'm losing time, and I know that you've been busy too. Just so I could say goodbye when I always said I could.
Popping up. I really don't mean to do this, guys. Just about perfect. The only thing is, maybe you commented a little bit on the break, is Jason could probably be a little bit louder. In addition, I think maybe I'd almost maybe re-record the vocals if I'm being really picky, because they sound a little peaky, but not in a way that it sounds like either like the mic quality or like maybe there's too much gain on it. That's making it not necessarily like Jason's fault, or like it's kind of like maybe it just needed a better mic, or maybe it was bumped up too much in post. Was pretty much it. And that's only at certain spots. That's not throughout the whole song. So I mean, other than that, standout performances all around. So I think very well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's awkward for me because I'm like, it must have been written with me in mind. I mean, first of all, the jangly guitar sound starts with "Yes, thank you." That's got me right now. Very melodic, easy to get into, lyrically really nice. The vocals and the music, I think maybe more than any other song, mesh really well on this one. And just a well-crafted tune. Probably your most poppy song. So as I was going through the album, this was an early fave, along with Midwest, of course. But for my natural music tendencies, this was a track that I could easily like and dug.
It's funny that you say that it was written with you in mind, because it's not true. Because we wrote this. We started with the chorus of this one, and this was a month after we recorded the Beth's podcast, and we went to a Beth's concert, and like right when I got home, I sat down and wrote it. And I know you really liked the Beths for their catchy tunes, so I guess that's where that ties in. But yeah, Chase and I sat down and wrote the chorus of this one, and then we wrote the verse, and then I realized I was actually plagiarizing the Beths.
Oops.
And so we changed the verse to be, the verse is more Strokesy influence, and then the chorus Bethsy, but they kind of hybridize, obviously. But that's how it came to be.
And lyrically, it was for the first time kind of really facing the thought of moving out of Cedar Rapids and, you know, like saying goodbye to a lot of people who I've known for a long time. And so that's kind of where that was. And also, I mean, I like playing soccer, and so.
Yeah, you'd think we could write a 9-track album and not have a song about soccer, at least tangentially.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of being a second single, that actually was less about the song itself and us wanting like, oh, Better Days should be a single, and more once it came to recording, this one came together so quickly. I mean, I think because it's so clean, tonally, that there's not much that has to be done in production to change anything. And so basically it was just, you take those stems that you record, and that's almost, you maybe put some reverb on it or something, and that's pretty much the thing. And so it was like, in terms of a second single, oh, this one's like already done. We recorded it all, and now it just already sounds so good. It doesn't need work, so let's put it out.
And we knew MPC at the time was our first single. And so if we released another song that was like MPC, if people didn't like MPC, we wanted them to know that we weren't just a band that wrote MPC and have a different tone as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorites. It's always been like everything fluctuates, and it almost always works the way where like whatever song we recorded last, it was like, that's my favorite, or like a top two. Like we'd be driving back home, because we did a lot of our mixing in West Liberty, so there's like a good 45-minute drive, and on the way back sometimes we just ask her like, what's your top three right now, to each band member. And it's like, it makes me happy that it would fluctuate, because if it was just static 1, 2, and then the third might change or whatever, then okay, we're not writing good enough songs for them to be in contention. And I specifically remember recording the backup vocals, and it just turned into a whole new song for me. Obviously, I'm the one who sang them, so like it made me feel like even more of a part of the song. But it's just like, it's already very Bethsy, and Eric and I have seen them a stupid amount of times now, and it's just a very big influence on us. And so to be able to write a song that is so influenced, and then to be able to do the thing that I love the Beths most for and have backing vocals, it was a very cool moment.
Awesome.
I'm relieved that it sounds like you still like this song. I was going to feel targeted if my two favorite songs to this point, you hated it now at this point. Like, well, that's too simple and poppy, and yeah, this other thing is an old thing that when we weren't any good. And so I'm pleasantly surprised that you still enjoy this one.
Yeah,
And
I remember writing like the riff for the verses and being like, Eric, it has to be more to this. Like, this is too simple. He's like, no, I think that works. It's like,
Yeah,
it does, I suppose.
yeah, ask AC/DC about that.
Fair enough. All right. We're slowing it down a bit to No One Else.
Picture you at night when I dream, and in the day you still what I think. I was locked outside and you fell asleep, but I still love you. Tuesday night I took you out to dinner at my parents' house. That night you looked so pretty. One day you will believe me. See it through my eyes. Show it to yourself. See it through my eyes. You know this.
Instantly, the song needs to be louder.
Wow.
I mean, just as far as the mix goes. I mean, I get it's a slow song, but the tone of Jason and the guitar kind of will do the heavy lifting for you, and the volume doesn't also need to do that. That's kind of it. I think my main gripe with, I think it's just a good point to touch on it, is with the album is that it's kind of hard to set it and then just listen to it, because you have to touch the volume dial for quite a few songs. Otherwise, you just won't be able to hear some of them, which is unfortunate. I think that's probably the main gripe I have. But as far as the song goes, beautiful song. Great writing, and the guitars are super catchy. The last line, "It's you and no one else," has a I think if I'm listening super closely, has a slightly weird volume thing going on. It's kind of wavy. I'm not sure if that's you backing away from the mic and then also it being fading.
Sure is.
And so it's kind of wavy in a way. And I think I'd almost like if they didn't fade you. And I think I would have liked it to just end on the high note. It's you and no one else, and then not have you fade, but the guitars can just fade rather than having your voice do it. Yeah, so I would have liked it to end on the big note, but overall, I think the song's great. I think it's beautiful. I think it's awesome. And you can talk about what it is when it's your turn.
Album location. I think it's a great spot. Nice change of pace right there. I always felt, oh, yeah, it just seemed like a natural fit in the order of things. And it is. It's a nice little love song. It's pretty. It's simple, like a love song should be. Shout out to the background singers. Very nice. This is the song that every time I hear it, I immediately think of Parker Millsap. If any of you know Parker Millsap's music,
Yes.
this song, immediately, I'm like, is this a cover? And I went back and listened to the album that we did a pod on of Parker's, and it doesn't really sound like any of them. So it just must be the general vibe of the thing, which is a compliment. Because after listening to that album a lot of times, I thought a lot of his music. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was one that I wrote the guitar parts to, and it's like our only stripped acoustic one, so we hardly ever play it live. So it was weirdly before recording, just like the song that we knew we had in our back pocket, but we never played, never practiced, and so it's like you don't really know how it's going to turn out on the album. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and that is in large part to how much Keenan did with it. He had the idea for the keys at the end, which we always wanted something. I thought maybe it'd be a harmonica, and it ended up being keys at the end. Yeah, this was just written at a very delicate time. It was like we had just moved into the house. My grandma had just passed away, and I had been taking care of her for a long time, and I just played the guitar when I took care of her all the time. And yeah, it was just very simplistic and written on my grandpa's guitar. You know, it just has a lot of nostalgia and like, you know, you feel sad, but you can still smile about it, sort of feel for it. And I'm glad that Jason, at first I'm going to be honest, I was like, this is a song that I'm going to write the lyrics to, and it's going to be about them. And then Jason came with words, and at first I was like, no, that's not what this song's about. And then I'm like, it means so much more that it is a song from Airspace to have it be like a love song, like you were saying. And, you know, in my, you know, little headcanon or whatever, it's like, oh, it can be about like them meeting or something, you know, like however long ago. But yeah, this was one that I was like, okay, I'm very glad this can actually become an Airspace song, because for a long time it was just that song that was in our back pocket, and we just said, oh, we just never play that live, you know. And so actually getting to play it live at the album release show was really cool and a very memorable moment for me.
It's interesting you say that about the lyrics, because I don't think I've ever even seen or heard the lyrics you originally had to the song, because you had first played the thing, and I think you kept it under. You weren't very forthright with the fact that you had more to it. You just mostly were getting down the guitar stuff, and quickly I just jumped in with my own melody and stuff. And one band we are very inspired by is Catfish and the Bottlemen, and on every album they do, they have an acoustic song, and typically it's a love song, and so I think we kind of wanted to have at least an acoustic song on there. I had recently met Jenna, who I'm still with, and I wrote the song about her, obviously. In terms of the mixing levels and stuff, because it's, again, so clean, and there's not really a peak on it, the volume... We were really worried about it being so loud. You'd have a song like NPC that's really muddy in comparison, and it would be quiet compared to the acoustic song that was just a guitar and vocals before it. And so we were trying to be very cognizant about that and turn it down, because even though it could be louder and it wouldn't peak, we don't want the loudest song on the album to be a quiet acoustic. So did we go too far in the other direction? Maybe, certain things you kind of only realize after many, many listens through. And when you're not under such a time crunch that we were under, and it was really stressful in those last few days trying to get it submitted to all of the sites and stuff. And when you have, you know, a show like Eric had mentioned earlier, a debut show, you need an album to be out at your album release show. So certain things we learned too late on, and it was more like, okay, well, what can we do to make it work for the album, something that we're proud of, something that isn't going to ruin all the work we've gotten this far doing. So yeah, the volume matching, as you mentioned throughout, it's not perfect, and that sucks, but it is what it is, and I think everybody's still proud of it. So
Here's the good news. Just the way I listen to stuff, I'm not typically wearing headphones. So, because I know how much more you can pick up on that, and sometimes that's really important. But I end up listening most of the times driving in my car or playing while I'm sitting at my in-home office desk. And which is similar to and listening to it on my phone. So it's all car radio speaker kind of deal, which, my background is all about. And none of those things really come up track to track listening that way. I don't know how, this day and age, what percentage of people are listening that way versus putting in buds. But it works that way fine. So you got that at least. I never caught any of those issues.
And I think that probably stems from the fact that Keenan did a lot of the mixing, and he would mix no headphones. He mixes using monitors next to his computer, and he may do like final checks with headphones, but he mixes it mostly to those monitors, as far as I know. And so in terms of just the time, as I mentioned, and the expertise to be able to match it not only to the monitors but to headphones, I think it was just a bridge too far for this first album from all of us who were learning along every step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, most of the volume adjustments where I notice them the most is I do a lot of listening to songs in the shower, especially songs that I enjoy singing to.
TMI.
And just trying to buff up listens for this, the album would inexplicably get on. And especially with those first three, there's a lot of volume adjustment between the three of them. And then wanting to get more familiar with this song, you'd put it on and you're like, damn, this is really quiet. And if you're wanting to be able to sing the song, you got to have it loud enough where you're going to want to be singing with the singer. So you got to bump this one way up. So that's where mostly I noticed it. And, it's just a dinky. It's got to be a waterproof speaker. So, it's not necessarily the best, because I want it right there next to me. I don't want it playing from the other side of the bathroom into the shower. I want it in the shower with me. So that's where most of the comments about like shittier speakers and quality, thoughtfulness comes in to play. But yeah, anyways, great songwriting, great lyric writing, and
Eric, thanks for playing the song.
Thanks for playing. Great performance. I think it's a very special song, and I think it's Jaslyn's favorite. So
Got that going for it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to it, I'm probably for the next hour or two, I'm belting out "It's You No One Else" like every few minutes. And it gets in there.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the next one, the first single, NPC.
Long-lasting ways don't make 'em right, and yet I find it's just the price to survive. Think I like living life this way, watching the pieces fall into place, and the colors fade. Mistake is another mistake, I've made another break in the wall in the way. Cherry red in a glass of champagne, illusion and escape. I waste my life on stupid shit, and I waste my time for the hell of it. I don't know what to do, and I don't know why. But growing up is getting tried.
Hi. Really good. I love the sound of the rhythm guitar every time I'm at a show. And EP gets that first solo part in the bridge and starts belting out. I'm like, fuck, yes, keep him there. And then other people come in and he's got to die down a little bit. I'm like,
My bad.
fuck. I'm like, fuck. But I love that part every time. I think again with headphones on. This is where I take all the notes. The kick drum might be a little loud, a little up there in the mix, but other than that, I mean, it's a banger. And everything's really solid. I really enjoyed the drum transition that we just heard. Going into "Her Eyes Are Full of Desire to Cry" is awesome. The line "Cherry Kool-Aid in a Glass of Champagne" is amazing, and you guys execute "Circle the Drain" awesomely. I mean,
I don't think I have any vocal lines on the album, so just be Jason, Chase, and Keenan.
yeah. Really good. I mean, there's besides the drums is really my only comment on this song. Great job.
Yeah, I thought the lyrics convey the message of the song really well. Love the bridge with a nice short jam. That the whole music vocal marriage in parts of that. And then I thought the guitar sound was reminiscent at times. If you've heard Big Country from the 80s.
Have I heard Big Country?
Huh?
Of course.
Some of that made me think of them. And then parts also made me think of U2. A little bit of of Edge on guitar, but also something about the drums. Sounded like early U2. I'm not saying anybody's the Edge or Larry Mullen, but it took me there.
Jason does act like Bono, though. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, I could see that. But Under a Blood Red Sky, I don't know. It just parts of it just made me think of that, and that's never bad.
Listening to that one back, man, realize how far that came in the music production. I think if you listen to the single version of that versus the version we listened to there, it's quality-wise much different, and it's at least for somebody who's heard it 1,000 times, it's funny, that kind of stuff you can pick out, and maybe if you've only heard it 2 or 3, you might not know a difference between the single and the album version, but it sounded really good going back through it. It's obviously about being fed up with having the same day over and over again, but also, I don't know, not being like being satisfied with it. At the end of the song, the person's, like, screw anybody who says what I should be doing. I can do what I want to do. So I don't know. It again is on that line of like, you're trying to write something that's not necessarily cringy, but you can so easily step into a cringy area with these kind of lyrics of like, screw you, dad, I'm going to do what I want to do sort of lines. It's so easy to cross that line, and I tried really hard to not cross it, and hopefully I ended up not crossing that line.
I mean, a lot of, it was also, one of the early ones we wrote and had a lot of changes lyrically and otherwise. But yeah, I think we got there in terms of, there was a time period when we had made the decision that it was going to be the first single, and I was like, I have to show my grandma this song, and I have to preface it by being, the chorus is, I waste my life on stupid shit. I waste my life for the hell of it. And I have to be like, hey, grandma, just released our first song. What do you think? But by the time we were done with it, I was like, no, this is like genuinely good and I enjoy it. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out because it went through many evolutions. And this is also a Jared Flory original. When he was part of the group on bass, he had a heavy hand in creating this one.
Basically writing a guitar part on bass that then got moved into a guitar part because it belongs on guitar, not on bass.
So him and I had played, the part I start with was a lot higher up on the neck for me and for him. It was actually as high as you could get on the bass. So after he had left and we started to revisit it, we dropped it lower on the guitar, and I'd made his part my part, basically. So that's where his influence comes in. It was named Petra. Jason and Chase and I found an early version of Petra before we had released the album. This is a lot better than what that was. So that's good. But yeah, this is one of my favorites off the album. It's always fun to listen to and be proud of, I guess.
And I know going into making the album, we were really obsessed with trying to capture the energy that you have playing in a group in a recording. Surprisingly, very difficult to do, more difficult than you think. You know, you think, oh, we play this in a room all together, and there's a certain energy that you can pick up. Jack has mentioned it on songs like Endlessly live. And then you go to translate that into a recording, and it's much more difficult to do when somebody puts a pair of headphones on, listens to a metronome, and now plays their part alone without everyone else. And it can be challenging to, when you have then the sum of it, to make it even just equal to what the sum of the parts are live. Oftentimes you find this is actually less than every individual part that when it's combined. So this is one that I'm very proud of because I feel the energy does come through when all the parts are combined. And that it was just, in terms of speaking about making an album, that's something that was just very difficult, surprisingly challenging to do, bringing it all together on the recording versus just playing it live, matching that energy.
Yeah, that's got to be a difficult mental exercise to try and put yourself kind of in that live environment. Picture yourself playing on stage when you're not in that environment.
It's exceptionally frustrating when you play it live, people like it, you like how it sounded, and then you get into the booth and you're like, this just feels so flat. And so it took us a little bit to get to that point. But yeah, I think, Jason, I think you're right. I think by the end of it, I'm happy with where it turned out. And I mean, Uriel had a good part in when he wrote some of the bass line and changed it to make it a little more driven. And then the mixing and mastering, of course, lifted it to a different level. I was worried early on about the lyrics for this one. When you brought it to us and you're like, hey, the chorus is I waste my life on stupid shit. And I'm like, what else does he say? And then the verses are like some of my favorite lyrics Jason's written. Like you were saying with some of like the alliterations or like the cherry Kool-Aid, holy hand grenade. I really do enjoy them. And they're, it's tough to toe that line.
And when it comes to towing that line, I think that's what I was trying to do on this song is I know the chorus is a very, easy layup sort of. If the verses were just as easy as that, I think it would fall into a cringy kind of like novice songwritten sort of thing. And I think I tried really hard to get complicated, vague, abstract in the verses so that when you get to the chorus and it's super simple, it's a change of pace and it's not, I don't know, all super simple, cringy, I hate my life sort of stuff like, I don't know, some bands from like early 2000s would write or something. Sorry, Theory of a Dead Man.
All right, cool. We are on to the news.
One-way conversation taking place. I hit the three-way intersection by her face. It's not the words we hope to hear. She got the news today. She got the news today. She got the news today.
Short and sweet. The breakdown at the end is great. I turned up Jason's humming. I think I had only ever heard it with my headphones on. If that's something that you were wanting to keep and you thought was important, I turned that up. I hadn't heard that before, but it's a very short song. There's no complaints here. I think it's good. Little bit of a cleanser from NPC between the next banger. Yep. Dad?
Well, this is where it gets sticky
Oh,
for a somebody doing a review
okay.
when the band is sitting next to you.
Okay.
Because if I talk about the feelings I got, the feelings you get, and the interpretation you make are always valid as a listener, but still you don't want to be way off. You know, you don't want to be wrong necessarily and go, no, that's not what the writer intended. You just want. So as I say what I was feeling through the song, I hope I'm not way off and, my face is red. But to me, the subject matter was the news is left for interpretation. It was not clear to me what it was, other than that it wasn't what was wanted, whatever that news is, right? So there's definitely disappointment, sadness, or some downer emotion of some variety involved. But what I really liked about the song is, even with that, for me, both the vocal and the music have an underlying feeling of positivity, of hope, of gratitude, and something that feeds a desire to keep moving ahead. So if that isn't there, I feel bad.
No, and okay, I will say this one is probably in a funny way, this is as deep as I think I get on the album. And I say it's funny because it's so short and sweet, as Jack mentioned. So it's hard to put a lot of meaning in when you only have, 6 lines or something in this whole song. I originally, the song, instrumentally wise, came from a jam we did where we played probably 15 different small little things. I was going through my voice memos and I really picked up on that. Basically what the song starts with, that what Eric's playing and what Chase is playing hook, and I started to write a melody to it. And at the time, this was probably about a year ago, Jenna's mom had just been diagnosed with cancer, and her cat had run away, and it was just not a good time for me, for her, for a lot of reasons, and it was just on my mind a lot. So when I'm writing my poetry, as I'll call it, it was coming through in a lot of ways, and this song ended up sticking with the melody and being thematically about that. Now, I obviously don't get directly in there because I don't really want the songs to be like as personal as I can possibly make them, but that was heavily on my mind at the time of writing it. So when it's coming about the news, it's kind of following those paths.
Because if you get too deep like that, then it's got a short shelf life potentially, because it was about that little piece of time. And then it's probably harder for you guys as a band to want to keep playing it. If it's tied so strongly to one thing.
Yes, but I started singing. I don't think I told them even what I had written the song lyrics about until, we had practiced it quite a couple times and it had kind of stuck. Because I don't really want to say something like that and then it sways anybody's opinion. I want the song to kind of stand up for itself before any meaning is described.
Mm-hmm.
so that people aren't swayed in one way or another. But yeah, it's kind of funny that being on a song as short as this is, how much I tried to throw in there. And whether on purpose or not, it was just, I guess, on my mind a lot. And that kind of happens throughout this record, is a lot of what's on my mind at the time is what I end up thematically tying a lot of lyrics to in the songs. So,
Well,
yeah.
let me say, for such a short song, and lyrically and instrumentally, and feelings that you conveyed to me in that short song, disappointment, sadness, some other downer emotion, yet there was still positivity, hope, gratitude. Kudos to you that you could convey all of that in that short a time. You did. There's bands that are incapable of doing that in any length or form. So hats off, man.
Yeah, and mixing wise, I think this one came together really nicely. It's really clean. It's funny because we say all this about the song, and I don't think it's necessarily anybody's favorite, and I don't think even at this table here. But I don't know. It's what I would probably call like an album deep cut. You know what I mean? If somebody became a fan of a band and they're on their 20th listen through of an album, this in my mind would be a song where somebody's like, oh yeah, I actually like. Yeah. That is one of my favorites because it's
1,000%.
It hides.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah.
And I don't think it'd be the album that it is without like this song or No One Else or Better Days, because while there are like the everyone's favorite songs type of thing, just what Jason's saying, like if the in between songs don't exist, then they're filler, and we don't want any filler on the album. As Sum 41 said, we want all killer, no filler.
And Eric's feelings about, not being favored are valid. Be just because maybe as a musician, there's not a lot here for you, or whatever reasons.
Yeah. And it's not like I like all of Jason and Chase's lyrics on the album, so it's not anything to do with like thematically, but instrumentally it doesn't really challenge me that much. It's pretty simple and it sounds good. I don't dislike the song at all. Happy it's there. Don't have a lot to say about the news. We wrote it. It's tied for the most recent song we wrote. This and the next track. Wrote it in about May or June. We were really struggling to write songs after like the 6 that we had at that point. 6 or 7. So we had started to jam a lot more. And so of that jam came the news and Moments Between.
Speaking of, here's Moment Between.
Ships sinking, rumors seem to split your mind in two. Sweat bleeds into your vision, head obscuring girl. You swear you're falling. You swear you're falling into it. You swear you're falling. No one but you can turn to it.
Moments Between. The intro is so fucking cool, dude. And the effect on Jason's voice at the start, it fits perfectly, and then you take it away, which is just so genius. I mean, it's just awesome. I think the drums, I think technically on the chorus when they double time or just speed up are a little bit distracting, and I think it gets a little. I think there's a little much going on at that point. But I don't know if it's a bridge or you're just gonna call it a transition before the second verse is so awesome. The guitar sounds, what we just listened to, almost like sneaky in a way. Like it's I sang it wrong, but it's like it kind of like I don't know. There's a lengthiness to it that I really enjoy. For some reason, it makes me feel like a spy a little bit.
That's exactly what I'm going for.
Yes.
I was gonna say. I was just like
Wow.
driving and trying to be like, I want this to be like. Well, I'll let Jason get into what the song like influences, but I was trying to get that sneaking feeling. That's awesome that played out, because for me it's more just like, oh, I get to play and I know what it's about, and no one else needs to know. So that's really cool.
No, I thought that was super cool. The flare guitar on the second, you swear you're falling part, super interesting and also really cool. Then the breakdown is incredible with the voices, even if you can't hear what they're saying. I think for most of them you can't really hear what they're saying, but I think that the whole breakdown part is super cool. I'd take out the high-pitched backing vocals at the end. I didn't hear them without headphones, but I think anything kind of like that is probably just distracting. I really love this track, but there's just like some small things that happen throughout that keep me from playing it on repeat. Like I love that beginning part. I love the sneaky guitar part. I love the breakdown. I think it's probably the choruses need needs something done for me to like just put this on repeat, because every time I hear that beginning, I'm like, fucking yes, dude. I'm like, yes, dude. And then it speeds up, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, the first part was so fucking cool. But I don't know. And I think it was at this point doing the notes, and I'm hearing that part, and also with the last few songs I didn't really have much notes for. I'm like, damn, these guys have really they've outdone themselves. Like I can comment on the fact that you gotta change the volume for a few songs, which is mildly can be infuriating, being as big of a fan of you guys. Only guy who's got you guys in the top 5 on their Spotify Wrapped, by the way.
That's not true, actually. My brother.
Okay, who was in the group chat? Who matters? No, I'm joking. I can comment on it all I want, but still, it's super cool that you guys have done this, and it's just super inspiring that you guys have done this. So want to say that as well. As much as me saying that I would have this on repeat if the choruses were a little different, sucks. I mean, the rest of it is still fucking awesome. And the fact that there's like, I don't know, the fact that the intro exists and it come from U3 or U5, who I all know, it's just sick. So, yeah, Dad.
This one was weird for me. Through my first however many listens, and I was doing my notes, I couldn't come up with anything for this. I mean, nothing. Writer's block, something, I don't know.
Been there.
Listener's block. It was weird. That's never happened to me before. And so I didn't have anything. And then yesterday, day before, whatever it was, I pop it on, and immediately I'm like, Jesus, what was my problem? It's musically infectious, makes me want to tap my toes right away. I'm like, what was the deal? It was the darndest thing. So anyway, another well-crafted song. I don't have a bunch of deep dive stuff for you, but on that last listen, it finally was like, maybe it's because I was looking to critique something, and I couldn't find anything to critique when it's just a well done song. The lyrics and music again tied together, the instrumentation and the vocals, which is a strong suit on a lot of your songs. And again, I thought this was well crafted?
I think I appreciate what you said. Going back to what Jack said about the chorus, I think this song being one of the last ones we wrote before the album was out, I think it's if it suffers from anything, it suffers from not being able to kind of cook as long as the other songs are. We talked about how many of the other songs went through changes lyrically, even sometimes melody wise, and this one just, I mean, we had, I don't know how many times we'd even played it before we started recording all the stems for it. So I think when you're making songs, you're always in that pursuit of the perfect version of the song that you know it can be. And when you have deadlines, there are just times when you have to go, no, I need to stop tinkering with it. This is the done version. And we had to do that really early on with this one. So when you say stuff like that, I appreciate it because it comes from a place that is truthful, and that the song just didn't have time to stew and be brainstormed on as long as songs like Midwest or NPC had, which had years to go through iterations and changes without anybody knowing or caring. Yes, but in terms of the beginning, when you hear that and stuff, you do just it makes you, even lyrically when I'm writing or something, I'm like, I need to match something, like, and constantly, and almost still to this day, I feel like, man, there is a melody out there that makes this song like that blows away the rest of the album, because the instruments on the beginning of the song, in my opinion, are like the strongest. And similar to what Jack is saying, it's like, holy crap, we wrote this, and it makes me feel like I'm failing the song melody wise or lyrically wise, to be like, I need to hit that grade. I'm not hitting that grade, and I'm the one bringing it down. But no, it's a very fun song, and it's always fun when you can have a song that's fun to play live, has energy live, and you also feel like, I enjoy this one as a song as well, and not just like, oh, this is the one we play live because it has energy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot about this song.
Yeah, well, what's it about?
The song is okay. Well, lyrically, it came from both Chase and I. It's one that came from both of us. The chorus, all except the last chorus, which I changed slightly, Chase wrote lyrics for. And then I wrote the verse, and we both actually I had a different chorus. I came to the song, I'm stumbling all over the place. I had come to Chase and Eric and the band and said, guys, I want these lyrics. I want the melody to match the instruments. I need help. I'm having writer's block. I'm having something. I need help writing it. I had something, but Chase also came with something, and we ended up taking my lyrics and melody for the verses, but Chase's lyrics and melody for the choruses. And funny enough, the meanings were kind of close enough that they could just be tied together without really even changing what the words were.
It's so funny. I wrote all of the lyrics for my version based on getting concussed, and
Okay.
Jason wrote all of his based on
the feeling of like paranoia when you're like high or drunk, and like being at a party and being like, do they know what, am I being weird? Am I doing something awkward? Do they know I'm drunk? Do they know I'm high?
Both moments between. Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, it's like, it was funny how much like commonality they had, despite us not getting together and being like, here's the point of the song, go write the lyrics. Like it was just at a weird time where like Eric had gotten concussed from playing soccer, and that was impacting his life pretty heavily. And I thought back to like getting concussed in high school, and how that, like, it's just like minor things that just like changes in your daily life, and it just messes with your brain physically and, you know, otherwise. And I thought it was very funny how when we brought them together, we're like, we don't have to change hardly any of the words here, because like there's so much overlap.
Yeah, is he high or concussed? It's hard to tell sometimes. Totally.
And Jack is on this song during
That's
the
true.
breakdown.
Yeah, in the bridge, I had an idea after listening to Sophie Mitchell's I'm Still Here, which is an artist we played with at the James, where she, has just like some dialogue that starts to overlap over time. And we didn't have as long of a piece of instrumentation to put that over, but mixed with Jason's idea of being at a party, we wanted the dialogue to be a little bit muddy, and you can't pick out necessarily every line. And so that's where that comes from.
I forgot this was the one with the dialogue, which
Yep.
I did like as an addition on there.
This one was another one from our jams. It's kind of a trope of when we were writing songs that I would play a song that already exists. And so Jason told me to start. We were waiting for Chase from work, and I started playing Reptilia by the Strokes. But Uriel, who hadn't really heard Reptilia by the Strokes, just played a original bass line off of it, and then we rolled with that. And then Chase got there and wrote that solo, and then we knew.
I can't describe the feeling of like the 2, 3, 4 weeks prior to this practice session where we just were like banging our heads against the wall. The news didn't exist. The present day iteration of like a couple other songs were not quite where they were. And we just felt like we had made so much progress. And now we were like, the songs are not coming organically anymore. Like we need to like force them. And that stunk. And then I remember like they could not wait for me to hear the song so much that they sent me a voice memo of them playing it while I'm driving home. And I'm like, I gotta watch my speed because this thing is moving, and I am so excited to layer something on top of this. Like it very quickly just raised the spirits of the band. It made Uriel feel way more involved because it stemmed from him. This is like, Uriel's song. If there were one, it would definitely be this one. It's the one he loves to play the most. It's the most difficult one for him to play, so we have to front load it when we play live because it's so fast. Yeah, it is. I'm so glad how it turned out, and shout out to Keenan for some of those ideas at the beginning of the song too, where you're talking about how like this intro rocks. It's really cool to listen to bands like Interpol who can have like a 90-second intro and you aren't like, come on, start singing. Like you are looking forward to listening to the song because that's a great part of the song. It's really cool for us to be able to do that too. Sorry, Jack, that once we start singing, you have to just restart the song.
That's not true. There's like a good minute in there, maybe.
That is a nice reminder to me on a lot of your songs, just the instrumentation. As a guy who loves lyrics and pop songs, I'm all about choruses and whatever, but I noticed often I'm like, this could just keep going without vocals for a while and I'd be just fine, because a lot of them I enjoy just solely as music, that I don't notice that all that often on songs. Probably because, I'm listening to songs I've heard before and I'm anticipating lyrics and I'm singing along or whatever. But it was an oddity for me to go, yeah, this is, I'm happy here for this as an instrumental.
And I think
early going.
I think that can be attributed mostly to our writing process. Like if the instrumentation is mid, but you're just waiting, like in a waiting room to get to the really good lyrics, then that song never would have existed for us because we would have scrapped the instrumentation before Jason wrote any lyrics. And so I think that it's like, okay, there's a certain threshold we have to hit in terms of quality for us to be like, this song can exist now. Like Jason can write some lyrics on top of it. Because, we scrap the MP3s that are on my computer. But those don't exist.
That sounds like a good way that sounds like a good formula for you guys. It's working.
It made me very proud when I realized that, like, this formula wasn't just going to be Midwest. Where, like, because we had Midwest, and then very quickly after, phasing, which I wrote most of the instrumentation on, at least to start it. And I'm like, well, I don't want that to be the formula. I want us to do it all together. And for most songs, that kind of is how it worked.
Last one.
Here we go.
Waves away.
Been waiting by the dock, where water's in the air. I've an awful lot to tell her. There's an awful silence there. You've given it a lifetime, and I'm not saying that it's fair. As I sit here casting stones, you see it there. Ripples over
Okay, so let's just redo the thing that we just did off the mic, because it's what we should have done. I just realized today what you were doing on that high part in the falsetto, because I just thought it was an ooh, but it's actually a lyric. You're saying we're.
Yes, and a surprisingly difficult word to say
It
in
is.
falsetto.
I tried to recreate it and embarrassed myself immediately.
So this is one that I would often request to be front loaded, because when you sing Endlessly and the ending of Midwest and all these songs, having this be your outro song, it's really hard to often have the falsetto left in the tank in a set. So was that always the case? No. Sometimes the song went without the word we're, because I could not get it out. I couldn't muster a note out without cracking. And
Yeah, I would say if you didn't want to front load, the hack would just to be replaced with an ooh, because I think it's
Yep.
much easier to hit, and I don't think most people knew the difference anyways.
but stuff like that is so hard to know when
Yeah.
you aren't.
For sure.
Yes, because if for somebody who's heard every song a million times, you don't know the things I pick out may not be the same things an audience member
Right.
picks out.
I mean, also, we had the conversation just about every show that I'm like, you need to be louder, and it's hard for you to know that when you have a monitor right in your face saying that you're loud, but for everyone else, it's just not as loud as you need to be. So, anyways, super solid. I don't have much to say except, is there an effect on your voice here?
I have that there is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought there was too, and I thought it was a little limiting at times. When you're getting louder.
Yes.
Which again, I've said before, I'm not the hugest fan of, because I want to hear him belt out. But I've had enough rock band parties that I know what it sounds like, so I can be fine. A good old rock and roll hoochie coo will do me just fine. I mean, I think it's a good closer. I think once you learn that it's a we're and then an ooh, that there's a little bit more meaning behind the song, that you're saying we're ripples on the waves, or on the lake, sorry. Rather than just saying there's ripples on a lake. So I like this song. This is one I always liked. I think this was one of the first few that I learned, that I knew from the live shows what the words were and that I would sing in my pastime. I'm like, oh, what was an Airspace song? Because I can't listen to them all the time. This is one of the few lines I remember. So, yeah.
Definitely. I have down here, we're ripples on the lake. Yeah, that's a high point of the vocals for sure. I think this is a great album ender. I have no...
To be fair, when you were first listening, there were lyrics on Spotify right away.
Well, no,
So you got to see that it's weird, not
when
ooh.
I first listened, I had taken pictures from the
From the
CD.
booklet, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I had them. I had them that way,
Yeah.
so that I would, because I wanted the lyrics. So
I had
But-
figured, because it was like in the next few days or something
Yeah.
that the lyrics had come
Yeah.
on Spotify, so I didn't figure you had to give them a listen yet.
it was
but-
a listener too before
Yeah.
I had them on Spotify, but I still had them. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Anyways,
I
unfair
was cheating.
advantage is what I was saying.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the order of the album is really great, and this is a great ender. Another one, I enjoyed the vibe of this one. Of course, the chorus. And my notes, I have the little effect on the vocal, not too much, just enough. So, there's another opinion.
I'm not saying I didn't think overall.
There
I
we
didn't
go.
think it made his voice bad. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
whatever it is, I would just blame it on the effect because that's just my first go-to. If
Yeah.
something's affecting his voice that is limiting it at the higher range,
I'm just saying
is it
some people will like different things. That's all.
okay?
That's all. Where
And I'm just making it clear that it's not the sound of the effect that I have qualms with. I think he sounds good in the song.
oh, it's the level.
I think it's he is able to go higher and is maybe even potentially trying to at some point, and the effect is diminishing him a little bit. Is it? I think he sounds good.
And I say it's just enough. Now, as I've said before, this is another one. I feel like the music on its own is a nice song, and the vocal is just great bonus points plus terrific lyrics. And I have this. We haven't really talked about this, but I think. I mean, my thoughts are probably known on my favorite tracks, but I would say this has a little vault contention.
That makes me very happy because
Yes.
this is, at least when practicing it in live, this is and has been for a long time my favorite song. I think the outro instrumental is one of the ones you can get lost in the most. I often do. I mean, I'm not playing anything during it most of the time, so I'm doing just a little bit of dancing.
Doing the gritty.
Oh, well, of sorts. But this one is one of mine. When I talked earlier about getting energy from playing it live and translating it, this was a really tough one. This one, similar to phasing, it was hard, I think, for the three of us to convey to Keenan what kind of atmosphere, what sonically we're going for here. And I think we got close. I think in a perfect world, we could have gotten closer to what we had envisioned. But it's still up there for me, and this is one I'm really proud of because I really like the chorus. It's one of my favorite choruses that I've written, just melody-wise. And instrumental-wise in the outro, it's one of my favorites that you guys have written.
Yeah, I'd agree that this has been my favorite for a long time. This one started with the chorus chord progression, which is probably my favorite progression that I've written. It's very melancholic, has a lot of snail mail and radio influence, at least in the Radiohead. Did I say Radiohead?
You
Right.
didn't
I
add the
just-
head, but I know what you meant.
important part. At least in the chorus progression. So, yeah, I agree that if it had more time to bake, that I think the outro could have sounded closer to its live counterpart, which is, I think, the best that we can be in terms of
It's as good as it
playing
gets.
live. Yeah, it's as good as it gets. But still my favorite, I think. I really like the almost telephonic aspect of the verse guitars. But yeah, when this came out, we were like, maybe we should switch Midwest to not being the closer and make it Waves.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I want to say this is the last song we wrote before Keenan joined the band, and so I was still playing the drums for a decent amount of our practices just to get like bones for certain songs. And that transition into the chorus, like that I had for like the drum part with the tom hit breakdown, made me realize that this is like the closest thing we've got to phasing, if not better. But most importantly is the song that the type of song we want to write. And so early on we had phasing, and then like straight away from it in a good way, but just we're waiting to find that second song that was like the essence of Airspace, and I do think that we found it with this one. But Keenan goes insane mode on the drums at the end, and it makes this song a different level. Yuri's on the bass as well. I would argue that this song is the one that's most influenced by Keenan and Uriel, despite it being basically fully written before they arrived, at least the structure of it. And Keenan doesn't even really like playing it, and it goes crazy. And so, yeah, very happy that it ended up being the closer, even though Midwest was going to be that for a while.
And I'm happy with what you said about the album order, because we did think a lot about the album order. When you only have 9 songs, at least in our minds, a lot of them are vastly different from each other. I mean, Better Days is a much different song than Moments Between, and so on and so on. But we did do a lot of talking about it and trying to make it so it wasn't a algorithmic friendly order or a like somebody who's just pressing play for the first time and just sending it off order. It's a for sitting down, listening to an entire album all the way through, order off of that. So you get highs and you get lows and you get fast and slow, and it's a roller coaster the whole way through, not just a one up and then one way down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you mentioned Keenan and Yuri's influence on this song, because I also think it's present in Phasing, which is the other song that we really feel like is our sound. Because I know in Phasing and in Waves Away, there's like a part where Keenan plays, and then we both look at each other, and we're like, yeah. Because he hits the toms, and then Yuri's bass in the bridge of Waves Away is so cool. And you see him play it, and he's like up here, and he's like doing some crazy stuff, and it's a lot of fun to see. And yeah, this one's all vibes for this track.
Yeah, it just sonically, as I said before, it's just hard to... Making an album was a learning process. We learned a lot. If you could go back and do it over, I'm sure there's some things we'd change. But with that being said, very proud of these 9 songs, and I'm very happy that in 20 years I have these songs available to be listened to, and I don't have to text these guys and say, hey, you want to get together and play it? And does anybody remember how that one song we wrote 20 years ago went? I just can't remember it anymore. So that it's just something I'm always going to cherish, I think.
And I'll always be like whether or not they became like the fullest version of themselves, like song wise, I'll always be like that's what the song is, though. You know, like that's the artifact of the time. And that to me will always be this album, you know? Like, you can remaster it all you want, but that is the version. That is as good as it gets. Like, I'm happy with the way that it is.
That's going to bring us to this could be the most difficult tug of war for the vault ever, because we've got
3 band members here.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to vote on this? I mean, we
You
wrote
are.
all the songs.
I'd say, yeah.
You are. At first, my initial thought was, well, the band should get to pick what the vault song is. And then I went, no. They get a vote.
They get the
They
majority
can't
of
pick.
votes.
We could do one collective vote.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thought.
So there's
Because bands,
they also have to agree, and then we have to agree.
Yeah.
Which
And
we
then-
might not agree with them, so then they have to come to
No,
agreement on a
that's-
different song.
That's what I mean.
But at the end of the day, it's your podcast.
That's-
You know, we're the
Who
guests.
cares?
But, bands are biased. where
Listeners
they
are.
often won't pick what the audience wants to hear, right? So, so I like that it's 2-1.
Yeah.
And
Well-
maybe we can come to a, an amicable, easy decision.
Yeah.
I doubt it. But
Well, this
we'll
is
see.
hard for me. I don't really have any strong opinions because the
Oh,
two
that makes it
songs
easier.
that I had strong opinions about, in my eyes, have some flaws that I can't get past,
Oh boy.
which makes it hard for me.
Jason can guess mine without even thinking twice.
Well,
so
we've said it.
we
Right?
have?
No, didn't you say it was Midwest?
No, not as my vault song.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not going to perpetuate that stereotype. This over 30 bullshit.
Okay, so did
So-
you change it after you heard that?
No,
Okay.
I think mine is obvious.
What is
It's
it?
right
Better
after
Days.
Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Better
I-
Days.
The most poppy song
Oh,
with the
God.
most hook, obvious hook.
I remember your best, the best episode, your vault song. I think that ended up being the vault song was "You Wouldn't Like Me," and I thought that was crazy. But it does. It's the most poppy of that album, and so
Yeah. What are you guys thinking?
Here, I'll give you another mic so you guys can have the discussion on.
So it's the news, right, guys?
No. If I had to, when I think of us playing songs, and I guess I'm not even thinking about the recorded version of it or not. For me, it would be Waves Away or Midwest.
I would say "Waves Away" or MPC due to its open mic presence.
That's true. We probably played that song. Well, other than Midwest, NPC probably played it the most. Having listened to the podcast and like knowing what constitutes a vault song, I would say it has to be Midwest. But I like for the band vote, I would agree to be Waves Away. So that's our vote.
I like the thought train that you went there about thinking about when you're thinking about you guys playing together, because it brought me to the two songs that, especially when there was nothing out on Spotify, and I'm like, okay, I got to think of an Airspace song, which again is being so lyrically connected to things. I'm thinking of lyrics. It's exclusively Waves or Midwest, which means that you would have to pick something else.
I mean, it's
You
very
have to settle on
easy
something
for me
else.
to say Midwest. I just wasn't going to say Midwest because, for obvious reasons. Although Better Days is the one I catch myself that's in my head that will just pop in there randomly.
That is true. Once the single came out for Better Days, it was a constant amongst everybody in the group being sung all the time. As far as it being like the staple, like if you're thinking of like an Airspace sound, I think you'd probably, and they would want it to be more Waves Away / Midwest sonically, as Jason would say.
And it's not that Waves Away isn't. I mean, I said it's got vault contention, but I mean, for the vault, for where the band is in its early, kind of. Well, I don't know if it's early, if it's early or not for the band. Actually, sorry, but but for where it is right now, it just seems like, Midwest is probably the
All right.
logical vault song.
Lock her in. I don't
I
even.
would say I don't think any of us have a problem with it being Midwest.
Yeah.
I
All
gotta
right.
try and remember the sound. What was it? I don't remember the vault sound.
Yeah.
All right, that's Midwest. We'll add it to the vault playlist. I think before we knock her out, I think I'd like to ask a question to you guys that is probably just about on everybody else's on the group's mind as well, and what you've probably been asked maybe before.
Yes, you can buy our music.
Oh,
It's on
also,
Bandcamp.
yes. If you want, they're streaming everywhere. If you want to buy it, it's on Bandcamp. They have CDs. You can comment, or if you know them, reach out.
Do you have a Patreon account
Uh,
of any kind?
Just the Bandcamp. We
Just the
will.
Bandcamp.
You can buy the digital copy on there, or you can buy the CD and we'll ship it to you / bring it to you. That's basically all we've done is bring it to people since the only people buying the music are the ones that live in town.
All right, so
Until now.
go to Bandcamp to buy their CD if you're wanting it physically and to support them. They got the CDs in their house, and they're trying to become liquid on that.
It's got to be quality on my end or no deal.
So the question is, with Jason moving and the incident of a girl asking for the singer position if she could audition, will there be anything musical? And I'm not saying this has to be collectively as a band, but evidently this is a muscle each of you have worked separately, kind of in your own. Is there anything that you guys foresee happening? And you guys can answer this separately, whatever. You're moving away. Are you going to be still writing poetry? Are you going to still be doing anything? Are you wanting them to send you voice memos? Are you going to be working on things separately, kind of thing? Or is there, you're going to start your own thing or your own band, try a different sound or anything like that? Or do you plan to just stop kind of doing music and trying to put anything out? Is it too tiring? Maybe you want a break. I'm sure you want a break. It was very stressful. Anyways, yeah.
I was assuming the band is dead because I'm the front man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
Like I was
kidding.
saying, Bono.
I am just kidding.
I thought he said I copyrighted the name while you guys weren't looking or something.
No. I think, and I'll just speak for. I mean, all I can do is speak for me, I guess. It depends on these next months, what kind of routine we fall into. We worked really hard to get this out on the date that it dropped, and that meant every day after work almost, doing recording, doing mixing, doing mastering for like at least 2 or 3 months. It was almost every single day, and it was more than I think anybody thought it was going to be. And so we've since taken the holidays as kind of a band break, and it's TBD on what the band looks like. In an ideal world, I would love to keep writing and I would love to keep making music. We had a 10th song that we had written, probably 80% done, I would say, if not more, that was quickly becoming my favorite song, and I would love to have gotten it on there, and it was heartbreaking to not just make the call that it's not going to be good enough for this album, and we don't want to lose the quality of this album for one song. I would love to try and do some sort of live tracking of that in a studio to maybe mitigate some of the time that it takes to do mixing, to do mastering, all of that, and pursue avenues on that. So at minimum, that is what hopefully you could expect from this band, is at least one more song release.
See, I can promise you that even if Airspace doesn't release any more music, that Keenan is releasing music and will always be musically inclined and involved in Iowa City. Uriel is looking to release his own music. You know, I've got songs rocking around in the brain, whether they're Airspace songs or otherwise. You know, something's gonna happen with them. And so does Eric, you know, with songs that he plays, whether or not they come to fruition, that's just the difference. The only difference is the time and effort you put into it, you know? So, yeah, in a perfect world, I mean, Jason drives down and we practice and can play a show or record or just for the sake of it, get a practice in because it's fun, even if it's not going to mean anything. But, I mean, we talked about those 2 goals at the start of the podcast, and we checked those boxes, so the rest is gravy.
And as far as like new singers or whatnot, a lot of family members come up to me or Chase's girlfriend's friend, and And even if we did like take auditions for a new singer, to me it would just be a different band, because it would just be weird to call it Airspace without the 5 members of Airspace. And as far as like, totally forgot what I was gonna say. New music. I struggle to believe that the 4 of us in Iowa would meet up to write something. Would I like it to happen? Yeah, and we can send Jason stuff, but it would just be harder to make something organically. Like Chase said, I've got chord progressions that I'm really proud of and really want to put out, but it will be hard to do because I wanted them to be Airspace things, but with time, it doesn't happen, and that's okay.
And frankly, like, just speaking honestly, people that do music for a living and nothing else, that's their entire source of income, and they spend all their time on it. You know, they take a long time between albums, they take a long time between songs, they play shows and stuff. This is just a thing that we love doing, that we carve as much time out of the day to do as possible. So that makes it even harder. So as sucky as it is that Jason's moving away, that is not the only reason that music would potentially not come out. I mean, we could have been working hard and doing music stuff every day after the album came out, but we all agreed that if we didn't stop, we would drive ourselves nuts. So,
and for shows, I think that we had talked about, at least I don't know if we agreed, that, I don't know, 2-3 months if Keenan gets an offer to, because he's always talking to people around Gabe's.
yeah, I mean,
We could, because Jason's only 4 hours away, so, but obviously it depends on Jason, depends on the rest of our availability, but do I think we played our last show? I do not think so.
Well, congratulations on this album. It's a worthy piece of all of your work, and fits the bill of this time capsule to be proud of, for sure. I think mission accomplished.
And just for posterity's sake, I don't think we really did an introduction of the members or a formal talk of the other 2. So I'll just go around, or I'll have you guys go around and just say your names and what your position was in the band. How about that?
Jason Schaefer. Am I saying last name here? I sang and I played some keys on the album.
My name's Eric Pauls. I played guitar.
my name's Chase Hannon. I also played guitar and then sang a little bit on the album.
And then Keenan Daly played drums for the first time on this album and mixed the entire thing, and it just would not have been done without him.
And Uriel Sanchez Ruby played bass and mastered the album after Keenan mixed it.
And this has been Airspace, as good as it gets. Thank you guys for joining us. I won't say see you next week for the album, for the next podcast, because it won't happen.
TBD.
Yeah, but we'll have another one. We'll
Yes,
have
we
another
will.
one.
Yes, we will.
It won't be weekly though, because that is it's hard. All right, bye guys. Thanks for watching and listening. See ya.